Hi, Dick Betts, and welcome to another edition of This Week in the Villages. I have a very special guest today. She's not only a provider of services that you need and I need for buying a home, she's also a friend. So, without me blundering and saying the wrong thing, which I've done three times, this is the fourth take. Okay. Uh, I want to welcome Sarah Fitz, business consultant for First International Title. Sarah.
Well, again, thank you so much for inviting us to partake in this. It's very exciting. I get asked a lot of questions like, what is title insurance? Because I know a lot of times we have people from out of the area, meaning outside of Florida, that will close with our company. And in some of other states, a lot of people may use attorneys to close with. So what our job is our job is to issue a clear and marketable title policy. And how we do that is by researching the public records. We want to follow the chain of title to ensure that anybody that is in title is deeding out correctly so that there is no claim and ownership from someone unknown per se. We also are going to search the public records for any liens and encumbrances. For example, like back taxes, a mortgage, IRS tax liens, whatever it may be. That way, when we issue the policy, it'll be clear and marketable for the person that's purchasing the property. There are two types of policies. So one is an owner's policy that's issued to the new purchaser. The other is a mortgage policy. So if you are obtaining a property, purchasing a property, and you're going to be using a loan to do that, we not only issue you, the new owner, a policy, we will issue that lender a policy as well. So if you're paying cash, then obviously we only issue an owner's policy. I did want to mention, if I can, that if when you are closing on a property and it's been owned, you own it in Florida and you have your owner's policy, provide that to your realtor upon listing. That way, when the contract comes in, they can forward that owner's policy with the new contract. It's a good business habit to follow. The reason why is for two reasons. One, if the owner's policy is provided to the title company upon that new order, we can use that policy to search the property because typically we would need to go back 30 years and we would just go back from that date of that policy forward. So it does a couple of things. It cuts down on the time that that search takes, but also the farther you go back are is a possibility that issues can be found. So that's why we like to get the policy up front. The second reason is depending on the age of that owner's policy, if it's a home and that policy you're closing within 3 years, you may qualify for reissue credit. And that portion of credit is determined by the policy details itself. For example, if maybe there were multiple people in title and somebody's deeded out, or maybe there's multiple properties that's on that policy and some of those properties have been sold. So we would need to review that policy in order to determine how much credit is given. So a home is within 3 years and a vacant land is unlimited. So it's always good to keep your owner's policy.
Very
And
good.
yep. And with the
Now,
policy, it's with the policy, keep in mind, it's a one-time premium that's being paid. It's not like homeowner's insurance. You only pay for it at closing. It's nothing that you need to annually worry about.
right. And the insurance policy rates, I think
Mhm.
something either with the state of Florida is involved
Yes.
in that. Could you
Yes,
explain that?
it's a promulgated rate. Every title company has to charge the same thing. We can't say, oh, for you on this policy, we're going to charge you $100 less or whatever. The only time that we can really, there are certain circumstances that that policy amount can change. For example, if there's different types like a butler rebate, so on and so forth, which I'm really not going to get into. But there again, having the owner's policy can change that. We just can't arbitrarily say, hey, for you, we're charging this, for you, we're charging that. And we are audited, title companies are audited, so we need to make sure we're following the correct protocol per se.
Yeah. So, I mean, when somebody says shop around for title
Yep.
insurance, it's all the same in the state of Florida.
The title insurance portion is how
Yeah.
title companies charge as far as their search and closing fees do vary. So that's where you could shop the rates. But I always like to say, we do a very important job and those rates vary from title company to title company. So when you are asking the questions to bring down a title company's fees, really know if you're shopping apples to apples and oranges to oranges, because not every title company is the same. So something to keep in mind.
Next thing
Mhm.
is I know course, the Villages. We sell a lot of homes here. And explain the difference, because people are sometimes surprised about a survey because, lender versus cash, and
Yes.
why it's important for, the mortgage company to say, you got to have a survey. Could you explain a little bit about that?
Yeah, that is a really great question because there is a lot of confusion. I get calls all the time from selling agents, which are the realtors that represent the buyers. There's a confusing conversation that happens when the lender says, "Oh, we don't require a survey." But actually, what happens is when you are purchasing a property with the mortgage in Florida, and I've been in the industry for over 26 years, and when I was on the closing side, out of my whole history of closing, I've only had one loan transaction that did not require a survey, and that was because that mortgage company was out of California. That was the only time I've ever had a loan transaction that did not need a survey. So what happens is the lenders will tell the borrowers, "Oh, we don't need a survey." But what they really want, 99.99% of the times, is they want an endorsement to their mortgage policy. That endorsement is called a Florida Form 9 endorsement. And essentially, the way to look at it in layman terms, I guess you could say, is we have to put our eyes on that survey to make sure that everything is within our boundary lines and anything of the neighbors is not encroaching and anything of ours is not encroaching on the neighbor's property. We can't do that if we don't have a survey. Now, there are certain circumstances that sometimes, depending on the title company, depending on the underwriter, that a seller can use their prior survey. But again, if a prior survey is going to be used, we're going to ask the seller to sign an affidavit to verify that nothing has been changed. And I don't mean interiorly, like painting a wall, putting up wallpaper. I mean within the boundary lines. No walkways, no, you didn't add an apron to a driveway, you didn't put up a fence, you didn't put up a pool, an addition, so on and so forth. So the seller and the buyer will both have to sign an affidavit if one is being used. When the survey process comes into play, the best thing to do is for the selling agent to ask the title company and the lender and bring the buyer in on a conversation. Who's ordering the survey? Is one required? Then that way that title company can have the conversation with the lender. Do you want that endorsement, that Florida Form 9 endorsement? If they do, now we need to coordinate who's ordering the survey because not all title companies order survey and their protocol varies. Some title companies will order it, but then the buyer has to call that survey company and pay upon ordering. Because if the survey is done, the transaction cancels and it's not been paid for, who's paying for it? And if we call an order, who are they gonna come after? They're gonna come after us for ordering that survey. So really, there's some really great questions. Who's ordering the survey? When is it to be paid for? And typically, we don't like to order it until certain things happen. So for example, when an appraisal is done, we want to make sure that home is, meets that appraisal value before we order a survey. So it doesn't cost the buyer any more money.
Gotcha. Well, Sarah, thank you for a lot of
Yes.
great information. It was good seeing you again. I guess
Thank you.
maybe in August we'll run into each other in Orlando again.
Yes.
I
Florida
look forward.
Realtors.
Yeah, I always look forward to that.
Mhm.
So it was good seeing you, and thank you for the valuable information.
Thank you for having us.
All right, bye now.
Bye.